All right. My wife, Michelle, and I have been in love for almost 36 years. And when you share that much life together, you develop this mental, emotional connection so that, sometimes you just hear a word or a phrase and you exchange this glance with one another and it sends you back through time and space through this shared memory. So if I were to tell Michelle, Chip Ahoy cookies, we'd both instantly be back in December 1988 in our tiny little apartment in the Bronx, New York City. It was just the two of us. It was very romantic. Because 2 years earlier, back in my hometown of Detroit, we'd fallen in love at first sight. And I'd asked her to marry me on our first date. We'd gotten married 4 weeks later. And we were, at that point, we had like a 2-year plus long, intense honeymoon. And then she got pregnant. And it was early in her pregnancy, and she had these really intense cravings. And I remember it was a Sunday night, and we're both doing our work, getting ready for work the next day, and she looks up at me and says, "I want some Chip Ahoy cookies." Now, if there's any couples and you're expecting a child, and you're the half of the couple that's not carrying that baby, you have one job in those 9 months. Your partner says, "I want," or "I need," whatever comes next. It's your job to do it, to find it, to obtain it, to whatever it takes. You got to do it. So I grab my winter coat. I head out on that December night. I'm going to get her some Chip Ahoy cookies. Now, I could have said, "Honey, we've got some great homemade cookies right here," because she's the best baker ever. She makes, to die for homemade cookies, snickerdoodles and those peanut butter blossoms and, lemon squares. And we had some right there. And I could have said, "Honey, we got great homemade cookies." But that's not my job. She wants those little hockey puck Chip Ahoy cookies. I'm going to get her Chip Ahoy cookies. And if you're not familiar with the Bronx, imagine, the city of Detroit, but rather than 600,000 people, it's over 1 million, but packed into about 1/3 of the land space. So you don't drive anywhere. There's no place to park anyway. So you head out walking, and it's late on a Sunday night, so at our little neighborhood grocery store, it's closed, so I head to the nearest bodega. Well, here in Michigan, we'd call a party store. So I go to the bodega, no Chip Ahoy cookies. So I go around the corner to the next bodega, no Chip Ahoy cookies. Go around to the next one, no Chip Ahoy, no Chip Ahoy, no Chip Ahoy. I'm making larger and larger concentric circles, further and further away from our neighbor in search of Chip Ahoy cookies. No luck. And I see a bodega across the street. I hustle over. Just as I grab the door, the lights go out. It's locked. It's closed. Next one's closed. But there's no way in hell I'm going back home without some Chip Ahoy cookies. So I'm searching the night streets of the Bronx for some Chip Ahoy cookies. And finally, I see a light in the distance. It's a bodega. I hope it's still open. I head across the street. I grab the door, and it opens. And I yell, "Yes!" The guy behind the counter looks up from his newspaper and says, I head over to the cookies. I'm like, "Chip Ahoy, Chip Ahoy, Chip Ahoy!" And I said, "Yes!" Now he looks over at me like, "Oh, shit, another late night crazy." I practically float up to the counter. I put down my Chip Ahoy. And I said, "I'm so happy you have Chip Ahoy cookies." He said, "All right, buddy, $4. And I go, "No, you don't understand. My wife is pregnant." He goes, "Oh, I've got 5 kids." Which maybe explains why he's open so late. So I take my little bag of Chip Ahoy cookies, I go bouncing out onto the sidewalk, and I think, where the hell am I? You remember this before the days of cell phone, GPS? So I just start walking. I head to the biggest intersection I could find. I go, "Ooh, White Plains Road. Okay, all right, which way do I turn?" Okay, so I pick a direction. I'm walking. I was like, "Ooh," I start noticing stuff. I hear an overhead train. It's the number 6 train. I turn on Gleason Avenue. I head up to our apartment. I open the door. And there's Michelle sitting at our tiny little table. And she looks up at me. And I said, "I got Chip Ahoy cookies." She says, "I love you." And she comes up and gives me such a big hug and says, "You're the best husband ever." And she leans back and gives me such a beautiful kiss. And I think, I said, honey, you coming to bed? She says, nope. She sits down and says, I'm eating my Chip Ahoy cookies. So as I go off to get ready for bed, I hear her say, I could really go for some double stuffed Oreos.